today, Tricia Luntsford, City County Clerk through the Boone County office. And I see also on the first slide that she also has the title of Boone County Election Judges Supervisor for this starting this spring. She's been with the clerk's office since November of 2024. She will tell us about poll workers needed for the upcoming August 5th election, as well as the Boone County Clerk's Youth Election Program. Welcome, Tricia.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So, as I mentioned before, I took over for Ragini, who was the election judge supervisor prior to me. She moved to Minnesota and still works elections out in Minnesota. But this has been a lot of fun, and I have learned a ton. I'm new to elections, but I'm not new to hiring and recruiting and customer service and everything to do with people. So it's thrilling for me to be able to take what I did in my past career and bring that into this and learn and grow. And I've just met some really wonderful people, and I really appreciate you giving me the time to come and speak to you all. I'm going to go ahead and share again, if that's okay. And then we'll try to kind of limp along with what I have. And if it gets too bad, then I can always stop sharing and we can just talk. But just wanted to kind of go, you guys are the experts with elections. You are the Muleskinners, so you know a lot. But I just wanted to remind everybody, we've got the August election coming up Tuesday, August 5th. It is a special election. We've got 3 issues on the ballot. We've got the county's senior tax issue coming up. We've got Harrisburg has a tax issue that they've added. And then the Columbia City Council Ward 2 position is open, and we'll be voting for that. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. And then we will be having a November election, we believe. We thought this would be a very slow, quiet year, with it being an odd year, but it's turning out to be a busy one. So we're excited about that. Again, this is all stuff that you know, but I just want to go over it really quickly. We're trying to register as many new voters as we possibly can. You have to be at least 17 and a half years old, a U.S. citizen, and a Boone County resident. Voter registration deadlines are always 4 weeks before each election. And in fact, Wednesday, July 9th is the last day that you can register to vote. You can still register, you just won't be able to vote in the August election. You can vote even if you have a felony on your record. You have to be off of probation and parole, and then you can register. And we do receive things from the Secretaries of State's office on a monthly basis where we go through and we make sure that our registration polls are cleaned up so that we know that. Anybody can go to govotemissouri.com to vote, or they can come into our office and vote as well. We've got Show Me Boone as well. Before Election Day, I don't know if everybody knows this. You probably do, but just to reiterate, we have just kicked off this last Tuesday our excused voting. So if you're going to be out of town, if you are working as a first responder, a healthcare worker, a poll worker, if you're disabled, ill, or confined on Election Day, you can currently be voting now. And in fact, if you were planning to work as one of our election judges, we always encourage you to come in to the office and vote early so that that is out of the way and you don't have to worry about voting on Election Day. 2 weeks before the election, starting July 22nd through the Monday before the election day, we have the no excuse absentee voting period. And we will have the Boone County Government Center open from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday every week leading up to the election. And we also will have some off-site locations. August the 2nd, we will have Parkade Elementary that we're doing no excuse voting. And then Sunday, August 3rd, we will be at the health department. We also will be partnering with Paquin Towers for no excuse voting as well. We're just waiting on a date from them. So people will be able to go into Paquin Towers and vote early too if they want. On election day, as you know, polls are open from 6 a.m. until 7, but we are bringing back the 3 central polling locations that we've had in the past. I think that's Friendship, Baptist. We have 2 others, Friendship Baptist, the Government Center, and Woodcrest will all have the central polling locations. And that means no matter where you live within the county, you can vote there. So if you can't get to your precinct, you can always vote there and not have to worry. So that is a wonderful thing. All right, what else can I tell you? So I think the thing that I'm the most passionate about is working with poll workers and getting more poll workers recruited on. And so I want to skip to that because that's what we're going to really, that's really where I need your all's help the most, is recruiting poll workers and word of mouth and getting people signed on to help us out. So every year we have over 600 dedicated individuals that serve as poll workers. We average about 250 for the smaller elections, but for instance, November 2024 for the presidential election, we had almost 700 poll workers, in addition to our youth election participants. We call them election judges here in Missouri, so you can call them either a poll worker or an election judge, but it does get confusing for those that aren't used to that lingo. They are the ones that make sure that people can vote. They are the lifeblood of everything. They set up and manage the polling places. They assist voters. They diffuse any kind of situation that might be happening, and they keep that process moving along. And this is where we need help, because each year it gets harder and harder to find people willing or able to work for elections. Missouri law is one of the states that requires parity for election judges. So that means we need a balance between the major parties, and the major parties that are recognized are the Democrats, the Republicans, and the Libertarians. And so, for instance, let's talk numbers. Coming up in August, we're going to place 5 or 6 people at each poll. That means at least my supervisors have to be Republican or Democrat, and they have to have that balance. But we really like to, because there is so much scrutiny on elections, we really like to make sure that we have much more of a balance. So we tend to, in these smaller elections, use mainly our Democrat or Republican poll workers. We don't get to use as many independents as we like because of that balance and that need for balance. We will be using some. We have, we're going to try to at least get 5 people in each poll, and we're going to have 42 polls this time around. But as you can imagine, that makes it really difficult. If you think about the party balance needs and the fact that it is a 13, 15-hour day, it makes it really difficult for people in everyday life to be able to either work those long hours or be able to take off work to get that done. And so word of mouth is really key for us to be able to get those people in. I generally will send out about a month before the election a work request to anybody who is signed up to be a poll worker and ask them to work. I've gotten about 280 people that have responded for August out of that 2,000 that I sent the emails to. So that kind of gives you an idea about the response that we get back. Within those, again, I have to have balance. So if I have of that 280 that have replied, if 200 of those are Democrats, I'm not going to have the balance on the Republican side, and vice versa, that I need. And so it really then becomes a numbers game of reaching out to people that may not have responded. I do a lot of phone calls to say, hey, we haven't heard your response. Do you want to come work with us this time around? So what really helps is if we can get the word out and let people know that we need them to work. And that we'd love for them to serve. Let's see, what else can I tell you on that? So I mentioned the word of mouth being very important. Let's see if I can get this to move along. Thank you all for your patience here. Youth election participants. So in the past, we have been very, very conservative about how we use our youth election participants. It's a wonderful program. We partner with schools. We're actually partnering with homeschool groups this year as well, and any kind of community organization like Kiwanis Key Clubs or the Rotaract clubs to get youth workers in. We think it's really important to get that civic pride started very early. So they're full-time high school students from the age 15 to 17. They have to be able to work that 13-hour day alongside of you from 5 a.m. to 7, and they can't be related to anybody whose name appears on the ballot within 2 degrees. But this year, we are expanding their roles. So in the past, they've been able to help with address changes or help make sure that people are loading the ballot machine correctly and that the ballot is getting cast, and they've helped work the lines. But this year they will be allowed to serve just like any other election judge, and they will receive that pay as well. So they will be able to check in voters and do any of the other things that a regular election judge will do. So that's really exciting. They do have to have a school administrator that signs off. And oftentimes we struggle with getting school administration to make it a priority. It's not as much of a priority for them as it is for us. And so often we're chasing these down. Our dream is that we have 1 or 2 youth election participants for each poll that we have. In November, we had upwards of 70 youth election workers, and we were able to place 1 at each of the polls. In April, we had about 15. So, those municipal and those local or special elections, they're smaller. They're not as sexy as a presidential election. And so we often don't get kind of the excitement for them. But we really are campaigning and working with the community organizations and with the schools to get them excited and get them participating. And listen, in August, they're going to earn $170 if they want to participate, and they can earn more money. So just like a regular poll worker, and I'll go here to show, we do pay. So if you have friends or family that are interested in working, if you know a teenager that is interested in working, it is a professional job. We do pay for it. For the August 5th special election, a full day pays $170. If you go to training, you get another $50. If you do setup, it's an additional $18. If you work as a supervisor, it's a higher rate of $200. You can work half-day shifts. I don't know if everybody knows that we have half-day shifts. It's something that they started a few years ago, and it's been wonderful. So if you've got somebody who can't work a 13-hour day, they can work a 5 a.m. to a noon shift and share with someone that they know who will work the second shift from noon to 7 p.m. And it breaks up the day and makes it not so long. Now, we do ask for those half-day shifts that you have to come with your partner. So we're not sitting there trying to find people that all the people that have signed half-day shifts. That would be a lot of work. But if somebody signs up together as a team, they can choose which shift they want to work, and it makes for an easier day and more people can participate. So it's really a wonderful thing. What else can I tell you? So really, that is kind of the information I wanted to impart for you. Word of mouth is so important. You are exactly the people that we need to help us recruit. I would love it if when I sent out 2,000 emails, if 1,000 came back saying yes, they want to work. And we really just want to share how wonderful the day and how fun that it can be, and that really it's such a great civic thing to do. And we have poll workers that have worked 26 elections. I think I have 35 people in our file that have worked 26 plus elections in a row. So the people that love doing it really sign on, and they're hardcore. And we want to be able to celebrate and get more people that want to have that kind of commitment and that are willing to serve in that kind of commitment. So your help is needed in that. And then spread the word to the teenagers. What teenager doesn't want $170 for gas money or to go out and get pizza and see the movies or go to the mall? But they don't know about the program as much. And so if you can help share that word, that would be really, really helpful. And I just really appreciate you allowing me to come and speak. Does anybody have any questions for me about?
Yes, thank you. I will try to help you field questions. And I see one here from the center there. have you ever needed or considered paying a small referral bonus for enlisting new poll workers?
Yes. Oh my God, that is a wonderful question. Thank you for bringing that up. It was something that I forgot to mention. If you refer someone and we choose them to work that election, you do receive an extra $25.
That's great. Well, you know, I did not myself know until today that I could have signed up for half a day, because I'm not, you know, I don't trust myself, having had some health problems. Like 4 in the afternoon, I'm done. You know, that's I can do the early, but I can't do the late. So maybe making that quite clear to people. I don't know how much you want to publish that option, but some of us who can't see doing the 13, 14 hours anymore could probably do the 6 or 7.
I love that actually, and we do need to do a better job at communicating that, because it is something that is really wonderful and more people I think would be involved. So I'll make sure that we get it on our social media. I'll make sure that we get it onto our website so that it is more visible and everybody knows.
It's not a particular organization problem for you any more than the other organization problems to do half shifts as well.
No, because
That's
we
great
ask
to know.
everybody to bring a partner with them, so they're really doing the work, and it works out really wonderfully, actually.
I have to find somebody else who
Yeah,
will do
you
the half thing.
you got to
Okay, I
find a
need to
partner,
understand that. Okay.
and to make it a little bit more difficult, they have to share your same party affiliation. So that way, I know, like,
Okay.
you'd be coming in, you're a Democrat, you'd have to find another Democrat to take the second or first shift for you.
That would be easier than for me to find a Republican, I'll tell you that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
These days. Who else has questions for Tricia? Let me watch the time here. We have about 5 or 10 minutes to talk about, I guess, anything in the clerk's office if you don't have questions about these issues today.
Well, actually,
How many polling places you got in Ashland this year?
So we are going to have 42 for August. We typically do 43, but one of our Fairview churches got sold. And so we are looking. They have expressed interest that they want to. I think they're calling. It's another Trinity church. I don't know their exact name, but I think they've expressed interest. We just couldn't get them up and running in time for the August election, so I would expect to see them for November.
So you're still going to have both down in Ashland?
We will still have both down in Ashland. Yep.
Didn't get my email, huh?
No, we did, and actually we're looking at possible changes for November.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like for Kathy Jensen to complete what she was about to tell me about the program schedule for today.
Tricia had asked for 15 to 20 minutes, so that was how we scheduled it. So,
okay. So Howard's ready to go soon.
Right.
Okay,
But
thank you very much.
If Tricia needs more time, we can do that.
Well, I'll handle it at this point, and I guess looking at our questions in chat, we finished them, and we'll let Alice Turner be the last question for Tricia.
Well, Tricia, this wasn't the area that you came to talk about, but I was kind of curious about reimbursement from the state to cover, I mean, especially for small communities. I know it's expensive to hold elections. So what's that like, reimbursing for the state versus local costs?
That would be something that I'm kind of the election judge
I see.
expert. But that would be something that I could pass on to Rhonda Proctor, our director of elections. She probably knows that backwards and forwards.
Okay.
I can get an answer for you and get that to everybody. And
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't have the answer for that one up for you.
Sure, we all have our area. I understand that. Thank you. Thanks for being here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Tricia, and we hope to see you again on other new and exciting and hopefully all positive things happening in the clerk's office. But you're welcome to bring us positive or negative, whatever you want to tell us. And good luck with these programs.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Without further ado,
David,
Yeah.
Mary Jo would like to share in election day with you.
Yeah,
The next one.
Yeah.
contact me, David.
We will contact you. We might not be able to do August, but yeah, you and I will share. We'll become big buddies. I'd love that.
And if anyone else wants to share, and I could take the afternoon shift, I'd be interested, not the
Yeah,
morning.
for example, I might go with Alice instead of Mary Jo if we it's a great thing. I think it's a good idea to do these things.
I loved being a poll worker the one time I did it. It was
Yeah.
actually at the beginning of COVID. I loved it.
I just don't trust myself after a certain time in the afternoon anymore to work accurately, and I think people need to do that. Okay, we'll talk more about it, guys, later on. But right now, I want to ask Kathy to introduce our other guests for today.
Thank you. Our second speaker is Howard Hutton, who is a U.S. Postal Service employee here in Columbia and a member of the American Postal Workers Union. He will be giving us an update on the current status of the U.S. Postal Service and possible changes that are coming, and Postal Workers Union current goals. Howard completed a dual major in religious studies and philosophy at MU. After he finished college in 1992, he began working at the Columbia Post Office as a general clerk, a position that he described as being similar to that of Radar in the show MASH. That is, he was basically managing the post office, but without the title or pay. Now he primarily handles passports, and he will tell us about some of the challenges facing the trans community and immigrants in getting passports. He began his activism in 1992, also working with Scouts for Equality. He served as on the board of the Center Project for 12 years. The Center Project provides services and support for Columbia's LGBTQ+ community. Howard has 5 children and has been very involved in Scouting and Girl Scouts. Welcome, Howard.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Welcome. Hello, and thank you for all you do out there. Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Loud
Okay.
and clear, Howard.
And now you can see me. Hello,
Yes.
everybody. Thank you. Yeah, so I started activism. I say activism. It was just trying to take care of people and keep them from being discriminated against. Sometimes I use the word activism as a slur these days, but I think whenever you're seeking more liberty for people who deserve it, then we're just broadening the circles and making America what it should be. To that end, I thought I would start talking about passports and what's going on there with a few communities that have been targeted for quite some time, but heavily targeted by the current presidential administration, from day one, with executive orders that tried to say that people could only be of 2 genders, but didn't really understand what gender was or when it started, scientifically, that is. So one of the really strange things when it first occurred was all the passport appointments, or most of the passport appointments for our Hispanic surnamed neighbors, disappeared off my appointment roster that I would get every morning for passports. And I assume I know that they disappeared mainly because people felt like when they were coming in, and if they weren't a full-fledged citizen, they only had a resident card, a permanent resident card at that, they were frightened to get their children their passports. The children that were born in the States that had all the documents they needed. So now their children are in some ways undocumented too, even though they do have a birth certificate. It's hard to carry that birth certificate around with you. So that's been really disheartening part of the war on our immigrant neighbors, which we desperately need to keep America rolling. Most folks know the real data on immigrants and how we really can't survive and live without them. They help pay for all kinds of our regular programming in this country, and not to mention that they revitalize our communities and create jobs of their own. Now that the trans folks that have come in to get passports early on after January 20th, were having their documents taken by the state and often not returned, taken by the Department of State and not returned. That was only some of them. It was hit and miss. There wasn't a policy that said that. Sometimes I assumed that they were waiting for good policy to come down to see what they were supposed to do with the documents they had. Sometimes I imagine that people just were treating the documentation at the State Department feloniously, because some of it just never came back and there was no particular reason for it. And we actually don't lose that many documents at the Department of State. It's very rare that somebody loses a document. There was the first thing that came down policy-wise was that they just took the gender marker possibilities off of the passport applications, no X marker, and you had to have documentation, and your markers had to show according to assignment at birth. But then there was a court order against that for 6 plaintiffs, and so those 6 trans folks could get whatever they wanted. They could get their passport with whatever gender marker they wanted on it, and they could do an X marker if they wanted, but it wasn't expanded to the rest of the community. And then on the 17th, that got expanded to the rest of the community. And so since then, I have sent in some applications fixing people's gender markers that the state sent back wrong, and fixing some for the first time for people who've gotten first time passports. But I don't know how that's going because those haven't come back yet. And just recently on the 25th, the plaintiffs are trying to get the courts to order the Department of State, travel.state.gov, to issue the policy on their website that says exactly how they're going to handle it, which it should just be a default, but evidently some folks have been sending in stuff that hasn't been handled properly yet, or the State Department didn't get back on saying that they were implementing what the court ordered them to implement. So we'll see how that's going. I'm continuing with folks coming in even today, trans folks, to send those off with the court order that says what they're supposed to do. So I think we have to keep pressing them to do the right thing in that manner, although it does definitely cause anxiety for a group of people. Now, the really hard part of that is that people during that time that had the X marker, there was a bit of chaos at TSA and the Department of State, and people just they weren't allowed to fly, some of them. There have been celebrities even from Stonewall. One has an X marker, lady named Miss Major, and they wouldn't let her on a flight. And so that kind of ruined some of the stuff she was trying to do. since then, that's been okay, but people are having to carry around the actual policy guidance off their website to wake up the TSA agents that don't really know what's going on yet. Because the problem with this chaos is that nobody's well educated on the ground at any one time when policy is going back and forth to know what the heck's going on. So they just kind of start to do what they want, which is a mess. There've been lots of people with X markers that just stopped flying. The trans community in general is really scared to turn any documentation in when they don't know if they will get their original documents back that were so hard for them to get in the first place from local states. So that's just been a mess. There've been people detained, not so much in jails or detention centers, but from being able to fly when they needed to, both incoming and out of the states because of this. So hopefully we can get that wrapped up with the last court order and be on our way there. I don't know. It seems like it's going to be a constant fight for a little while, but we'll see. Now, moving on to the rest of the talk about the post office and the recent talk about privatization, it appears that the administration is pretty distracted by all the other waves that they've created that are coming back to them in the courts and on the streets. So there really hasn't been a whole lot of talk of privatization lately. The initial talk that we had, it talked about privatization, selling us off. It talked about rolling us up into the Department of Commerce. And one of the Department of Commerce's ideas was to have us work and do the census. Well, that would be impossible unless we hired a lot more people and redid a whole nother department inside USPS to do it. However, the census, when it does run, does coordinate very closely with the post office to figure out who's where and potentially how long they've been there and what's going on. Because the post office, as we deliver to nearly every address in America, has a fair understanding of what's going on, especially residentially. That said, nothing has come of that. Hasn't been a whole lot of talk in Congress about that, and so that's kind of nowhere. The Commerce Department roll in never took place. I think people are afraid, and I think the corporate stakeholders are afraid of too much disturbance here. They've already had a lot of disturbance in other places with the tariffs back and forth and not being able to even do advertising because they don't know how much anything's going to cost. That has actually affected the post office's bottom line with people. I can't see all that as it comes through, but we'll get to it as we go along there. People potentially could chime in if they want to stop me and hear something else that I bring up in their mind. I see a little question came across, but I couldn't really grab it before it disappeared because I'm just on my phone here.
Howard, I will help you with those questions, but go ahead.
Okay. So the USPS has had a constitutional monopoly, but that was ended a while back. I can't remember exactly the time that UPS first came on. They were the first person to challenge that, corporation challenge that, and get some of the take. As people might understand, UPS has never outperformed the post office in price. Occasionally, depending on what's going on, they outperform us in service here and there and yonder. Right now, we're not doing so good on service, I think, but I'll get back to that a little bit later. But generally speaking, whenever they take a piece of what we're doing at the post office and give it to a private company, the prices are lower. The prices are higher for the consumer. The wages are lower for the worker. So that's always a problem if you want to keep a middle class around that can keep the engine of commerce in your country rolling. So UPS, FedEx, DHL, and other carriers still cost more and are too expensive for many. So we know where privatization usually leads. Less service for the public, lower wages for workers, greater profits for the few shareholders at the top. USPS sits at the center of $2 trillion of economic activity. So though we show, I don't know, 5 billion lost 1 year, 6 billion lost 1 year, we actually had a revenue gain this last year, but with the medical care we have to pay out 75 years in advance. I don't know where that's going exactly. I think we wound up showing a 1.9 deficit this year altogether, but what we're saving, UPS and FedEx and DHL and the customers that depend on them and the home businesses that run shipping businesses out of their home is way more than that. So these corporations, they get really worried when when they do talk about getting rid of the post office. The world is new. There's not near as much regular first class mail going back and forth, and that does hamper the profits that the post office used to have that kept us above water. But also we didn't have a bunch of we didn't have strange accounting regulations that nobody else has to deal with, like the 75-year in advance healthcare payments we're making. Yeah, the deficit is definitely minuscule compared to what people are saving. And it was interesting what COVID did to the home businesses. It really exploded home businesses, and they haven't went to UPS to do their work. They make their money, they save their money at UPS. They don't have, a lot of them don't have quite enough shipping parcels to make a contract with UPS viable. Post office is still a great way to safeguard the privacy of your messages compared to electronic messaging. We all know we've probably been on one list or another where our data was stolen, and we had to watch our data through one of the credit houses, Equifax or whatever. The full constitutional mission of the post office still exists, of tying the country together. Even though the post office, when email first came out, we tried to get a piece of that, but that didn't happen, which is probably for the better. I'm not sure how we would have handled that anyway. But we still have to get a whole lot of real tangible communications back and forth. So there's really not a whole lot we can do with getting rid of the post office there. I mean, if we were going to just give that up, as they talk about, we would all see a great increase in prices, because it's just not going to work any other way. We've already got all these folks on the ground making this happen. The government efficiency that was Doge. So the government across sectors, including the post office used to have the government across sectors has shrunk by about 40%. At the same time, it's servicing a greater population. And the post office, at its peak, had about 800 some thousand employees. We're now at 200,000, and we have more routes and delivery points than we have before. We've done some things that aren't necessarily great, like we've put new subdivisions in cluster boxes instead of making it to every door. That's not the greatest thing. It's not the thing our customers like the most, but it does definitely make things cheaper for how many people we have to have on a route. And so when Doge came in and started thinking about cutting here and there, and it was just off. There's no way for it to make those cuts without devastating services, and of course the people that were working. Yeah, I don't know. There was no real thought behind that. And at the post office, enough stuff has been happening that we never really got bogged down too much by that. There are a few people here and there that got letters, but they were just they just didn't. Well, you know, the emails that said tell me what you're doing, but not much of that happened, and it didn't do anything at the post office to anybody's job. And the APWU has recently, and the carriers, and all had pretty good contract negotiations. So that's been nice to see. I am worried that the slowdown in the economy, because our attack on immigrants and our really kind of our attack on the world has slowed down our tourism and just almost has slowed down our economy so much that there's not near as much, I don't think, parcels being shipped back and forth, especially from the home businesses and people buying out of Amazon. I think everybody's seeing a dip right now in profits and purchasing across the board. Among other things, people may have seen a talk about Trump wanting to sell off the electronic vehicles that we were going to get in. As far as I know, there could be somebody talking behind the scenes up at L'Enfant headquarters at the Board of Governors, but I don't see nor have heard anything about it. And it seems like we're still on board to start seeing that come to fruition. Some of the bigger cities have the charging stations. I wish we did here. Our fleet is so old and aging that it is a tremendous part of our $6 billion. And I'm not sure that it's not all of our $6 billion in lost revenue and revenue loss. Because here, I don't know, in the area, 153, 200 fleets, especially the smaller AOs, probably 300 altogether. But we have just tons of vehicles in maintenance every day. It's gone up quite a bit. Remember when I started, I think we had like maybe 5 at a day, kind of an average amount out of our whole fleet, getting this thing done or that thing. And then, 10 years, 15 years later, it was like we had 11 or 12 in the shop every day, getting this thing or that thing done. And now we often have 30 of our vehicles in the shop getting maintenance. So the maintenance folks are just raking it in on the post office right now. It's just, I used to contract everything at the post office when I was general clerk. I contracted the snow. I contracted the maintenance for vehicles. I've shifted that off. I'm really doing my retirement gig with the passports now. Everybody else has got a piece of what I was doing, either HR or purchasing or whatever. And the maintenance though is unbelievable as far as what the post office is bleeding out, just keeping these vehicles on the road. So we would really love to see the EVs. The EVs across sectors have also proven that they're pretty good for the most part. They're pretty efficient. They have staying power. They break down less often, even compared to the new motor engine vehicles. So that would be, I mean, I don't know what the full data is on that. I'll look that up. But they break down so less often. Yeah, it'd be really sweet. Of course, we wouldn't have to breathe all that extra tailpipe stuff either if we had more EVs. We might have to get bells on the EVs if they were too quiet around the neighborhoods. Right? Might have to do that. They were talking about firing the board of governors. They were talking about a lot of stuff that they just, I think, are now too busy to think very hard about. The firing of the board of governors never happened either. So they were ready to go with their court cases too, and that came up. But they've never had to take that to court because it didn't happen. Not to say that the board of governors, however, is still, it's still partisan board, but the way the post office works, you know, I mean, I don't know exactly what they could do to screw things up more. There's plenty of little things that have been done that aren't great anyway. The logistic fiasco now, I'm sure people already know that their letters aren't getting places as fast as they should. Their parcels aren't getting places as fast as they should. When things are working maybe exactly right, things go well, but DeJoy set up this logistic thing that had actually been thought of before, but you know, people ran the numbers on it first, and they allowed the stakeholders to come in and talk about things. That's probably kind of a hallmark of the DeJoy team. They never really did any stakeholder stuff. They just kind of ramrodded whatever they wanted to do. And generally speaking, in the past, no matter what we did, we spent a lot of time talking to local stakeholders, mail houses, carriers, everybody that dealt with the post office. And we would together come up with ideas to make things work better. And that often gave us some pretty good feedback there, and that helped a lot and didn't make any crazy things happen. But this got rammed through, and it wasn't what most people wanted. What they did logistically is they took our large facilities, distribution facilities, where we had outgoing and incoming processing set up, and they tried to make it so that some the large distribution facilities only did an outgoing operation or an incoming operation, which meant they could get rid of some trucking routes between offices, but it also meant absolutely that you were going to have another day in travel for any mail going any one direction, sometimes more, depending on what was happening at a distribution center, whether having a crisis or something was down. And this has been the saddest thing for most of the retail people, telling people that they can't get an express mail overnight across the country when it used to be easy peasy. And now at almost no time can you get nearly any express mail overnight, even to a Kansas suburb, in one day, which does not make any sense. So there's some things I'd like to get straightened out, and they really wouldn't wind up costing us that much more, I don't think. Oh yeah, part of the DeJoy legacy. I remember I had the health department signed up, ready, local postal people in agreement, local leadership in agreement to come talk to us during COVID at the post office. And, you know, I mean, I didn't think I needed to call L'Enfant or headquarters or check in with DeJoy about that. But sure enough, I guess my postmaster, who might have been a little bit scared or worried about something, I don't know what, decided that we would not let the health department come in and talk to us about what we needed to do to stay safe. Seemed like a huge OSHA problem right there. But just an awful, I don't know, partisan, political, not smart thing to do. At that point in time, the health departments, I guess, were a source of contempt for many for one silly disinformation reason or another. So speaking of what the post office has already done, not only have we got quite a bit fewer employees, but I don't know how many people will remember that are from Columbia, but if you're outside Columbia in one of these small towns, you'll know and you'll remember and may still be upset with having lost your small town post office. I don't know, 15 years ago or so, we shut down about 24 of them. So we still deliver to all those places, but we don't accept, we don't have retail acceptance for a lot of those places. They have to go to another town. So then we pick up that work in Columbia or a little bit of a smaller town that's bigger than the really small ones. And some of that probably wasn't horrible to do. Like it wasn't that far out of the way for anybody in many respects. So I don't have a stakeholder communication on that, on what people overall think, but it would be nice if the post office asked people. But to save money, we're paying people less. We're trying to keep overtime down to a minimum. This makes this delays mail too, because when you tell people to go home, if there's mail left somewhere, then they leave the mail. We try to clear everything here locally and in the regional office, distribution office, and near Ashland. But I don't think we are clearing necessarily everything right now. It depends on what's happening.
Howard, how much longer can you stay with us? We'd like to have a little time for questions, but we don't want to interrupt you if you can stay a little longer than 1 o'clock.
Yeah, let me just say a couple things and then we go straight into questions. Foreign exchange. The post office, like all the other post offices around the world, or a lot of them anyway, probably should be doing foreign exchange. And we've talked about it at the APWU and the rest of our unions. Micro lending is something that would be huge to the whole country if we could get rid of the local lending sharks and do micro lending out of the post office. We've got a good, smart, young crew of people in that could handle all that. And that would make a huge difference. And the union has talked that up, as well as a few other things. But those are two big ones. We already, some people may know already, we do fingerprinting. We're having a bit of a problem with our fingerprinter right now. The fingerprinting takes care of identity services for a lot of our different departments like Social Security and some of the others. So yeah, let's get into questions then.
Well, there are two that are related. When you were talking about the expenses for vehicle maintenance, one of them says, is there something good supposed to be coming out of the big, beautiful bill? And will you be getting some electric trucks out of that? I guess you told us you don't have them yet. Will you be getting them? And then another person or somebody there at the HQ asked, well, would it help just to have newer ones, even if they were not EVs? Or how do you see that for the needs of the post office locally here at this time?
Because the EV rollout has been so slow, we have purchased some Mercedes. I don't know how that contract went down or why Mercedes was used, but it turns out that the Mercedes stay in the shop way more than the Fords and the Chevys did.
And it's expensive to fix a Mercedes. Somebody
and
needed
it's
to
more
think about
expensive
that.
to fix a Mercedes. Yeah,
Right? Yeah. Somebody needed to think about that.
I don't know where that came from.
So you're still waiting on EVs, and it's not clear that anything new is going to be the best. That people need to take time on this is basically what I'm hearing. And then Alice wants a little clarification. What does what does a post office have to pay 25 years in advance? That's so crippling.
75.
75. It's health. It's a
Healthcare.
schedule for healthcare 75 years in advance for someone who's 25 now, right?
I don't even know what that means. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't even. It's just a
How
big
could you
number in
calculate
your.
that?
It's just a big number to the insurance company that has to go every year.
Well, who does get it? Where does that money stay? I've never seen on any paperwork from any email when a question is in conference, talking with we have these conference calls. I've never heard anybody really explain that.
And as I understand, you're an active member of the union. You'd be there listening if they were trying to explain that. And I wanted to say, how safe do you feel speaking out on these issues? And do you feel like you have the union protection you need? I know you said you're facing retirement now, so maybe you've loosened up. I became acquainted with you online on things having to do with the Center Project and those kinds of interests that you and I both share, just your name. But now you've made it more exciting that you're on top of all this post office stuff too.
Well, I am sliding out. I have moved most of my stuff over to other people, and I'm enjoying my passport gig. It's hard to completely extract yourself from an organization like the Center Project or from the post office when you've had your fingers and everything. But I don't know. I hope that I'm safe. I haven't said too much weird. I don't. That wasn't kind of there's some stuff there that Joy might get mad at me about or somebody else in messaging, but I'm not. It's not exactly the same as going on KBIA and telling them what I think about the post office as a postal person. So I'm not too worried. I'm worried about our immigrants and what that'll do to the country the most probably. And we have had some big post office protests, but currently they've got so much going on that we really are not floating to the top. I guess when they need another big distraction, they will come at us again. But right now, they just sued every federal judge in Maryland for saying that before they send somebody out to a third country, they have to have 48 hours to decide whether they need to initiate habeas corpus.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got plenty going on. Oh, the big beautiful bill. Yeah. Well, things keep leaking out of that, and I haven't read the big beautiful bill. I see parts of it here and there and yonder, but yeah, there's so much hidden in that the rules person in Congress has already taken out like 12 major things that didn't have to do with budget reconciliation, that would just government policy things that would affect people in horrendous ways, or things that would affect federal judges, or not stuff that was part of the budget. But there could definitely be something in there that I don't know about yet. But there's nothing that's going to make the post office in there that I know about whole. That's for sure. Yeah. And the EV thing is a very slow thing. It's not stopped, but it's not going very fast as far as getting them spread out across the country. But that would be a huge deal if we could get those.
Okay, folks. What do you want to ask our guest? Ken Rice asks, is the post office self-insured? Perhaps that may explain the 75-year requirement.
Well, I just need to see actual words explaining it, to where it's going and how it's going. It's just general revenue as far as I know. So it's just like pumping up the government.
Seems like a quite hefty requirement.
We're not self-insured, I guess.
Just self-insured, typically you have to have a bigger one. I've never seen 75 years though. I think that
Yeah,
seems quite
nobody
crazy.
else has either.
Now, I'll be honest. I heard that I was quite taken aback. I do know that there are, when you self-insure, there is, some money requirements that you have to support it. But 75 years seems onerous to me. But
So-
again, I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah,
Thank-
that's one of the things. That's one of the reasons why the unions have been complaining about it so hard, as well as the regular admin that has to take care of the numbers at the post office every year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Howard.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, as I recall from your first answer to that question, it's just a big chunk that's taken out of the budget every year, and that's all you know about it.
I mean, obviously, the post office pays as a benefit a certain amount of our health care.
Right.
And so that amount, that 75 year in advance is for them paying half of our health care. Yeah, I don't know what my health, oh my God, my health care would be huge if I had to pay it all. Yeah, it's a great benefit. It's a huge benefit getting part of my health care paid for.
It could be also because it's taking care of all the retirees too, because
It
I'm
is.
sure.
Yeah.
So that's where the bigger requirement of the 75 years, because you're not only paying for the ones that are active, but retirees and how long that is. So there may be some justification to it. I don't know. It does seem like a lot, though, to be honest.
And then under the Biden administration, they did something to put the new folks that go into retirement on Medicare.
Yeah.
To immediately roll them to Medicare.
Yeah. Okay, Alice.
Okay. Just a quick question. Noticing my driver in the middle of the summer in an unair conditioned vehicle when it's like 100 degrees out, and he said to me, "Oh, well, we're supposed to get air conditioned vehicles in maybe 3 years. We'll see." And I just wonder how that passes OSHA to have government employees on vehicles with no air conditioning. Anyway, any update on people driving trucks in this kind of heat, Howard? Do you know anything about that? It just seems so inhumane.
Yeah, we buy them all kinds of little knickknacks to try to keep them alive, but it is inhumane. And this kind of weather, it's I mean, the truck can reach 140 degrees inside.
Right.
So they buy them bottled water in plastic to make everything worse, That doesn't help much. They need coolers, they need ice constantly. Yeah, we used to do it back in the day. Temperatures sometimes were even higher, but never did we get steadily the temperatures higher with the increased humidity, and that is deadly. And we have had more incidents. And yeah, I don't know how they can make it, but I mean, OSHA, I don't know what OSHA's doing these days exactly. We could have a better safety and health department.
Absolutely. Okay. Just wondered. So, and you don't know the timeline. I think he told me last summer, so maybe it's 2 years, but I think he implied that they've been promised air conditioned vehicles for years. And it just, and then they have to get out of the truck, and I'm just amazed.
We have some vehicles that are air conditioned as we get new ones on, but they're getting old at the same time, and then their air conditioners have to be worked on, and mess.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, indeed. One of the things that you kept bringing up is this pressure to be something like a profit-making organization, and that there are, carve-outs out of our postal system for stockholder-owned profit-making corporations, and that I think you indicated that the post office has been cooperating and in some ways growing certain sectors, package delivery, I would suspect, in cooperation with Amazon and others, FedEx and others that are in contract with the post office. So you're doing what you can, but if you're supposed to go, if your challenge is to go to every household in the country and to do all the other things that you have to do, you're not a self-controlled profit-making, and you're like the public library. It's something we pay for because we want to have it for our country. And Benjamin Franklin thought it was important. I think it still is. And I wonder how we get away from this talk that everything like a public university and everything like the post office and even our public library is supposed to be a profit-making, growing institution that might as well be left to an entrepreneur, an oligarch, and a small group of stockholders to profit from. I mean, what's the problem here? Have we given up on public goods in our country? And I'm only asking you this, Howard, because you brought it up, and I think you know something about all this.
Well, the commons are what float our boat. It was democracy that really made us an economic, I don't know what you'd call it, an economic juggernaut.
You think it was democracy and not slavery?
Oh, I'm afraid that, unfortunately, yeah, we built that. We built that on top of slavery. There's no doubt.
Okay.
But the cost of that slavery was immense.
Right.
And the cost of those white peasants, keeping those white peasants back in the old country, was immense. And when they started to open up freedom and liberties and the ability to pay for what you wanted and to get a little bit for, what your craft was, when they made that more fair and all the revenue didn't go to the king, then yeah, I mean, that definitely shored up a lot of power. And the cost of slavery was immense. And when we opened up that sector of society and let those people be educated and trained, it made immense difference in the solutions, the human solutions, and the probably the longevity of life, and just a ton of things we take for granted right now.
Well, some of my officers have reminded me that in our philosophical and broad political discussion, we've gone over our time, and that you probably have work to do. And I don't, Alice, you don't have a further question. Your hand's still up. You're okay. All right. So I think that this has been a wonderful presentation from you to tell us what's been on your mind, and to some extent a little bit into your fellow workers and the union as well. I hope we can stay in close contact, if that's possible, in weathering out the challenges that we're facing right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for being there.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much.
Thank you, Howard.